All right, yo, welcome back to one of my videos. I haven't done videos for this channel for quite some time, and that's because I'm busy. And to be honest with you, it's just not really getting the views. I'm not like one of these YouTubers that gets thousands of views every clip. It just doesn't work like that. It doesn't mean that my content is bad. It just means that, yeah, people are not watching. People are watching something else. And there are many, many reasons for that. Anyway, so I haven't done videos for a while. There's a few things that have changed. So, for example, the Russian channel that I was kind of reviewing from time to time, 1420, is now actually archived. I was sure this was going to happen because eventually, look, Russia is not. I know that in the past video, some people try to tell me, try to convince me that Russia is a kind of liberal democracy and you have like freedom of speech, etc., etc. But come on, who are you shitting here? We know that's a lie. Look, I know there's a lot of kind of bots out there. There's a lot of paid trolls out there, and they like it's their job to go out there, seek out any video really that criticizes Russia and basically stir up some shit on the channel, um look, guys, I'm not gonna like kind of tolerate that crap. Like if I see like obvious trolling, i I will ban you from the channel, and that's just the end of it. And I wish that more creators actually did that, because then we can kind of start to clear up all that garbage, on online, garbage comments, etc. The not Look, not every opinion is worthy of being like posted online. Okay, I know everybody can have an opinion, but doesn't mean that you have to kind of say it out loud, right? Anyway, so that channel, um, that guy who ran it, he made a few videos after that trying to kind of explain what happened. I haven't really watched too many of them yet, but he was basically saying that, well, it's just time to move on and do something else. He still had a lot of questions to ask people, so it's not like he ran out of questions. It's more, I don't know. I honestly don't really buy that too much. I think it was more kind of the pressure from somebody, who wasn't happy with the content he was making. Of course, he can't say it out loud because that would put him against the state, and then there's possible jail time involved, etc., etc., because that's how it goes in Russia these days. All right, so today we're going to look at a video that I did save before the channel got archived. Well, actually, all the videos are still accessible. It's just archived, like it's not active anymore. This video in particular, it talks about Russian people in rural areas. So look, before I kind of talk about that one, just a quick note here. uh, Rural areas in general are very different from urban areas. This is not just in Russia, but it's also in the US, in Japan, in Zimbabwe. Look, wherever you go, there's always going to be a difference between these two regions, right? A lot of people try to go into the urban areas more because, yeah, there's more like opportunities. Everybody's kind of there. The cool stuff is there. You have accessibility to kind of shopping malls, etc., etc. In rural areas, you really kind of don't have that. You have maybe like a kind of small market somewhere and small school, and everybody knows each other because it's like a tight knit community. So it's really like different, and people have different opinions as well. People who live in urban areas are more exposed to obviously kind of international people coming there because foreigners also come to urban areas, and you get kind of a cultural exchange going on and everything else. In rural areas, it just doesn't happen as much, or sometimes even like never. In Japan, there are many places, for example, where yeah, just foreigners don't go there. Like there's no point to even go there. There's nothing there for you. It's just a bunch of farmers, farmers and fishermen, and there's absolutely no reason for a foreigner to go there. And that means that the people who live there, even though they do have access to the internet, etc., they were never really like physically exposed. I mean, to like foreigners. So they only kind of have an idea of what they see online, but they never actually talked to a foreigner or try to find out their opinions and when they where they agree or disagree. That just never happens. So in a lot of cases also it ends up in rural people being afraid of foreigners because they have this kind of lack of understanding. Whereas in urban areas, it just doesn't happen. We constantly exchange information and meet other people from other countries. And yeah, so anyway, today we're going to look at the video in Russia and let's see what they have to say. I did not watch the video. I never watch videos before commenting. That's one thing. But I can guarantee you one thing, though. It's going to be a lot of bad shittery here. So just get ready for that. All right, ready? Let's go. Just look at these pictures, right? I mean, nobody has talked yet, and that's fine. But just look at these pictures, okay? Look, I know that like people don't like to kind of use that word, but these are basically shitholes of the country, okay? So like it's poor, the education level is lower than in cities, because a lot of people like, they don't really go to university. They just kind of start working on the farm or whatever, so they don't have higher education either. And just look at this. It's basically kind of like rusting vehicles, uh, dirt roads, which are basically mud because it has rained, I guess. So it's all just this kind of sludge. And yeah, so these people here are going to tell you that everything is wonderful and everything is fine. All right.
Нас смотрят иностранцы, и они в комментариях удивляются, что российские деревенские живут нище по сравнению с американскими и европейскими. Как бы вы могли бы это прокомментировать?
Прокомментировать я могу сказать по-русски. И пусть за собой смотрят, а не за нами.
Ну хорошо, что хотя бы они хоть что-то думают, но они очень сильно ошибаются по поводу того, как мы живем в деревне. Мы живем очень хорошо. Кто хочет работать, тот всегда будет жить хорошо и ни в чем не нуждаться.
Okay, that's just not true because like the salaries in rural areas Russia are just pathetic. Like I know the kind of thing here they're trying to say is that, well, for me that's enough. Like I don't need more. But if you actually give them the option, like, okay, but do you want like maybe a better car? Do you want a bigger TV or bigger apartment maybe? I'm quasi sure that these people will answer yes to all of that. And that means that you can't have these things if you live in rural Russia. It just doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. So yeah, they're just basically pretending. They've convinced themselves that life is okay when it's really kind of not.
Живем хорошо, не жалуемся, зарплата достойна. Получаю 50 тысяч, зарплата достойна, чем могу жаловаться, все хорошо. Везде все доступно, все хорошо.
I'll give you like a quick reference here. So the last time I worked in Russia, when I was there, it was like 2010, 2011. I left in 2011. I mean, I lived elsewhere before that and elsewhere after that. But when I was in Moscow working in 2010, I was working as a video editor briefly, and my salary was $2,000 per month, which is, like it's still low, I would say, but like for Russia, it's like not too bad, I guess. If you compare it to America, for example, yeah, it's a bit on the low end. I would agree there. But this guy says, okay, this is a more recent video though. So he says the salary is like $550 a month. This reminds me when I worked in China because in China I worked as an English teacher, and I also made about 500, like let's say 500, $600 a month, which in China is okay. Like you can live with that, especially when the company completely pays for your rent. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the rent whatsoever. it helps. But unfortunately, like if you take those $500, $600 and let's say you go back to the States, that's paper money. That's almost like worthless. You cannot survive in the United States on that money. So it really depends on like which standards you're comparing to.
У нас бедняков нету и богатых нету. У нас все средние. И все зажиточные, и у всех все есть. Они получают пенсию, молодежь работают, зарплату получают. А то, что американцы говорят, это не надо им верить. Туалеты у нас прекрасные.
Так оно и есть. Люди так в Ростовской области, мы все живем бедно. И зарплаты маленькие, пенсии маленькие. Ну, выживаем. Так, ну, мы уже привыкли как бы жить так. Как, на хлеб, на воду хватает, и как бы слава богу. Чтоб не было войны. А остальное все это ерунда.
Yeah, so this is the interesting point. Like a lot of people in rural Russia really support the war. I mean, a lot of Russians support the war anyway, which is like absolute bullshit. Like I've already talked about that a lot. Okay, I've already told that all the reasons for the war were bullshit, and the current reasons for the war are bullshit. It's a disaster anyway. I mean, look, they can't like take a kind of relatively small area, which is really kind of pathetic, you know? Like, actually, if you study Russian history, if you study kind of the wars, the battles in Russian history, a lot of them end with the Russians got their asses kicked. It's true that in the end, kind of like it kind of evens out, but at the time of the battles, it's always something embarrassing happens because it's basically like a mob. They don't really have strategy, or they're just like a mob, and sometimes you just have more people, and you know, by sheer numbers you win, but it's really not to do with strategy or anything like that most of the time. I'm not saying like that's all the time, but this woman, like, yeah, so she's against the war. That's interesting. But she also says things like, okay, we have enough for water and for bread, and then we're happy. That's all we need. This is actually a parallel to that is actually in the States. We also have the same idea. Like a lot of rural Americans, they tend to vote for Trump, or, you know, for the Republicans. And this again is tied because they don't really kind of understand things. They have a lower standard of living usually. They have a lower education as well. They just don't have that kind of access in rural areas. It's just the way it goes. Like most good stuff, if you want to go to like a good university or something, you always go to some university which is in a bigger city. I know there are some kind of exceptions. Like, for example, Oxford is not necessarily a big place, but, you know, they have a very, very famous university there. But Tokyo is another example. So Tokyo University is the top university in Japan, and it's in Tokyo. So yeah, most of the kind of better stuff to develop yourself as a person just happen to be in urban areas. That's just the way it is.
И второе, чему они удивляются, что среди российских деревенских очень большая поддержка Путина, но при этом они живут бедно.
Не знаю, нормально живем. Никто бедно не живет. Вот. А поддержка Путина, если мы поддерживать его не будем, то завтра эти сволочи, которые кричат, вот, завтра все это разрушат.
This is so funny to me because this guy said, okay, so like if we don't do anything, then the American bastards will destroy everything tomorrow. Look at where you live. There's nothing to destroy there. It's already a fucking dump. So what are you talking about, man?
То, что бедно живут и поддерживают
Да,
Путина?
да. Вот и они удивляются этому.
У нас каждый поддерживает, я считаю, что президента Путина, свою страну.
No, it's different. I'm sorry. You can support your country, but it doesn't mean that you support your president. President is not your country. The president might be the face of the country, but the president is not equal to your country. So, for example, I'm okay with many things in America. Obviously, I have a lot of issues with America as well, but that doesn't mean I'm definitely not gonna support Trump because he's a neo-fascist, etc., etc. Check out Project 2025 if you don't believe me. And I don't really support Biden either because, like, he's an old guy. I think his mind is going, and it's just like a fucking disaster. Like, he can't remember anything, and this is the person again who is kind of in charge of the, well, so-called anyway, most powerful country and the richest country in the world. And I just don't feel comfortable that it's in his power. Plus, I mean, he's not really doing it much anyway. All of his policies that he even managed to pass were extremely diluted. He didn't fight for any of that. They got diluted, and he was like, okay, fine. Well, at least we got something done. It's better than nothing. And this is always like that in America. We are never, like, we stopped doing big things in America. We only do kind of small, like, incremental, almost meaningless things. Yeah, it's a bit of progress, sure, but it could be like so much more, and we're just not getting that from either party.
Россия это, во-первых, патриотическая страна, вот, и поэтому, мне кажется, мы будем поддерживать своего президента, как и всегда, при Российской империи, при династии Романовых, при коммунизме, при Сталине, при Ленине, вот. И до сих пор также чтят и любят.
Whoa, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. This is another Z-mobile. We saw a Z Geländewagen in September, and this is Z Lexus, if I'm not mistaken. It's gotta be a trophy.
Yeah, so again, Putin is not equal to Russia, okay? It's two separate things. Yeah, he's Russian, etc., etc., but he's not equal to Russia. It's basically like saying everything in Japan is expensive, but like if you look at it actually in detail, you notice that, well, Tokyo is expensive, but Tokyo is not Japan. Tokyo is just a part of Japan. And if you go out of there, if you go to Hokkaido or whatever, then everything is a lot cheaper. Okay, so it's the same here. It's exactly the same idea. And by the way, he mentions that Russian people always supported the leaders. He mentions like Prince Nicholas, I mean, and like Lenin, Stalin, etc., people that always supported them. That is absolute bullcrap. Where does he get that from? There's a lot of people that did not. It's just they had no choice. There were no elections, so there was no choice to pick someone else. It was the party picked someone. Basically, like in China, the committee picks someone, and that becomes the leader, the premier or whatever. So you can't say that people supported the regime because there was nothing to choose from.
Конечно. А кого еще поставить? Он только один. Больше некого.
Ну вот они считают нас настолько нищими, что у нас до сих пор вот туалет на улице.
Ну и что? На свежем воздухе.
Видел такой комментарий, что если бы российские бедняки оказались в Америке...
Они мне нужны, Америка ихняя. Хай они захлебнутся.
Вот. И они бы, если вот посмотреть на российских бедняков, то, допустим, в Америке они бы сошлись за бездомных.
Да? Бездомный? Вон у меня дом. Так что мне не надо бездомных.
Правильно, у нас бедных нет, но Путин молодец, он поддерживает. Вот нам пенсии добавят.
This is absolute bullshit again. Just don't look. They can say whatever they want, right? I mean, look, It's kind of street interview. It's sudden, I'm sure. They just kind of, it's not planned or something. It's not like they call each other and, okay, like tomorrow at 10 a.m., let's meet at this place and I'm going to ask you some questions. It's really not like that here. It's more kind of unplanned, impromptu, like interviews, right? And so this woman says like the pension increased. Okay, my aunt lives in Russia, and I can tell you that the pension is really, really low. I mean, you can barely get by on it. I would even argue that in fact it's not enough because old people are also often sick, so that means they have to go to the doctor, they need medicines. Sometimes, the medicine that is available locally maybe is not suitable. That means you have to get other medicine, which is more expensive. And basically, at the end of that month, you don't have any money, right? Yeah, it's true that you don't really pay for the apartment, but I think you do have to pay some kind of tax, and you still pay for the utilities anyway. So anyway, very, very quickly, your uh, very small pension, let's say, disappears every month. Okay, so yeah, you can just barely survive, but just really barely by the skin of your teeth.
Путина очень поддерживаю.
Президент наш президент, как бы.
Ну, Путин молодец, он помогает россиянам бедным.
Да, Путин нам.
Я, как патриот своей страны, я действия нашего президента тоже поддерживаю.
А кого другого поставить? Другой, наверное, будет, говорить свою линию, наверное, будет хуже.
Поддержка Путина мы уважаем. Это наш президент, самый любимый, самый дорогой. Уважаем его.
Они не понимают, как так мы можем жить бедно и поддерживать президента.
Вот, потому что они думают, что мы живем бедно и не понимают, почему мы поддерживаем Путина. Товарищи американцы, мы живем достойно, кто хочет жить достойно, поэтому мы поддерживаем Путина, потому что нас все устраивает в этой стране.
Потому что Россия как бы начинает потихоньку отвоевывать свое. И я даже считаю, что Россия это довольно сильная держава, то что уничтожает чуть ли не сотнями единиц американских техники.
I'm not sure where he takes those numbers from. I'm not sure there's any kind of reliable source for destroyed foreign vehicles in the Ukraine war. I know that, yeah, there are some, obviously. There were some losses, tanks, probably personnel carriers as well, Bradleys, etc. But I think he overestimates that, definitely. I actually kind of see the opposite most of the time. It's the Russian tech that gets destroyed most of the time, because I think before the war, a lot of people thought that the Russian equipment has been modernized, and we're kind of sending the best, like this is the best tech we have, and very quickly it turns out that that's not the case at all. Yeah, there were of course some modern in the tanks there, etc. But then very quickly it became, okay, can we salvage Soviet technology very quickly because we need more. We kind of lost already the tip of the spear, if you want, and now we need backup, and we don't have any more modern things, so we need to kind of refurbish old tanks from like the 60s, the 70s, and send that to war. Yeah, I'm sure that's gonna go well.
Путин эту победу нам несет на своих руках. Вот честное слово.
Не все, наверное, поддерживают. Я поддерживаю. Меня устраивает. Лучше кандидатуры я пока не вижу. Вот так.
Я не поддерживаю. Война раз. Зачем было затевать ее? Против всего мира себя поставили. Конечно, жалко людей, жалко украинцев, жалко.
Yeah, indeed. Like I said before in many of my videos already, I kind of talked about this topic, so please go and check those out. I'm not gonna repeat myself too much, but before the war, Putin gave a list of reasons for the war, like why he's going in, and actually all the reasons were bullshit, were lies, complete fabrication. There was no evidence provided to support the claims. Yeah. So anyway, it's good that at least some people are even not afraid to say it on camera. Like, I do not support the war. why did we start it all? Well, why? I can kind of theorize if you want. The people who, because there were some people who wanted to make a lot of money from it. Look, America is the same thing. We were in useless, stupid wars for about 20 years, okay? In Iraq and Afghanistan together, I mean, not separately, but together, about 20 years, okay? Both of them absolutely useless. The people who were there didn't know what the objectives were. It's like, what are we doing there? Why? What are we trying to achieve? Nobody knew, nobody cared. In the end, what was the result? Trillions of dollars wasted. There's no progress in these places whatsoever. There's no democracy. Afghanistan just pretty much went back to what it was before. So, what was it all for exactly? And it's the same actually with the Ukraine war, because eventually, maybe when it ends, if it ends, people are going to ask the same question. What was it all for? And my answer is, yeah, it's just for absolutely nothing. It's just some people wanted to put more money into their pockets. War is a very profitable business, and that's why they did it.
А вот европейские бабушки, дедушки путешествуют по миру.
Да ни хрена не уже 2 года не путешествуют, потому что у них жрать нечего.
Okay, this is absolutely not true. I'm not sure exactly when this video is from. I mean, it is like post-COVID, but I'm not sure exactly what year. Anyway, look, European people are fine, okay? They have enough food to eat and stuff like that. The reason why they didn't travel too much in the past 2 years relative to this video is because of COVID. COVID shut down a lot of travel, okay? That's just a fact. Everybody knows that. Now, I'm sure that this guy, he doesn't kind of believe in any of that, because in Russia, like, COVID was, yeah, like, it was more kind of, we know about how many people died. It was about 400,000. But this is like, you have to take these stats with a grain of salt always, because, obviously some people don't get counted, etc., etc. So I would say it's always an underestimate of the real number. Plus, like, they stopped counting anyway. So, like, we don't know. But I know that in Russia, it was very suppressed from the beginning. They really never talked about it. It's not like even in the US at first, they tried to suppress it, but it became a huge issue, so they had to talk about it, right? In Japan, it was kind of the same idea, actually. In Russia, it was suppressed, and it stayed suppressed all along, because that's how communist regimes work most of the time. China was kind of the same. They really tried their best to be quiet about it, and yeah, just the policy of silence, man. That's what they tried to do. Eventually, again, the problem just got so freaking huge, and everybody was talking about it, that they had to address it. But if there was not much outcry, I'm sure they would have still kept quiet about it. So this guy, I'm sure he doesn't believe in COVID. I'm sure he thinks it's fake, and like in Russia, it just, it's like nothing happened, and people are like still traveling, etc. Yeah, but that's because it was suppressed, and they didn't really kind of alarm the general population, but it was still there. And anyway, that's the reason why people didn't travel.
Вот. И они скоро сдохнут без того, без жратвы. Россия еще поставлять им хлеб,
Ну вот,
чтоб они выжили. Они уже и так ноют. Вот. И если вот это сейчас ударит зима нормальная, они вымерзнут все, как мамонты. Я вам серьезно говорю. Потому что
европейские бабушки путешествуют по миру на круизах.
Пускай путешествуют. Я им не завидую.
Путешествуют по всему миру европейские, потому что им больше заняться нечем. А у нас бабушки и дедушки чем занимаются? Внуков воспитывают, деть водят, нянчатся. Потом у них свои в деревне живут, чистый воздух. Им не надо ездить там по миру смотреть. У нас чистый воздух, хозяйство, экологически чистые продукты питания. Это они ошибаются. Мы живем достойно. Поэтому мы голосуем за нашего президента.
Путин.
She's wrong when she says that, oh, we have everything here, clean air, etc. We don't need to travel anywhere. Actually, a lot of Americans have the exact same mentality. They say the exact same thing. That's why I always said, like, Russian kind of, these type of Russians and American conservatives, they can go hand in hand, really. They can be best buddies. They really have a lot in common. In America, a lot of people say the exact same thing. Look, we have a big country, we have fresh air, so why do we need to travel anywhere else? Well, the reason is because if you travel somewhere else, you are more exposed to other people, to other cultures. You can change your mind about things. You can see new things because one thing is to see it on the internet, right? And one thing is to actually see it with your own eyes. Life is made of memories, not just watching pictures online, I mean, that's fine if you want to, but when you see something physically, it leaves an impression on you, which you cannot get from watching it online. It's just not the same thing. I'm sorry. So yeah, you go to museums, you go to various, like, I don't know, music performances, whatever you want, like theater. Um, it all kind of builds up your knowledge of life, your understanding of life, culture level, etc. It's all designed to elevate those. So if you don't travel at all, you're basically like a limited person. You're a primitive person. You only think about this kind of local tiny spot where you are, and that's it. And maybe that's enough for you. I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm just saying that you're missing out on life. We only have one life, as far as we know, and it's really kind of in your best interest to make the most of it. If you just spend it in your own apartment the whole life, if you rot in your apartment your entire life, I'm sorry, but you just kind of wasted your existence at the end of the day.
Все нормально, наш президент. Сейчас идет война нормальная. Мы делаем, бля, правильное дело, которое мы должны фашистов добить. Этих гадов должны добить. И скажи всему мировому сообществу, что этих фашистов
Okay, that guy is clearly like deranged anyway. It's the end of the video here, but that guy is clearly mental, like a nutcase for sure. He says, like, again, this is one of the lies that, okay, Ukraine has a lot of fascists. You know what? I think there are more fascists in Russia than there are in the Ukraine. So, they always say about you have to worry about your own country, etc. Well, why don't you worry about your country? Why don't you take care of the fascists in your country first before trying to fight them abroad? Why don't you do that? But you see, this is like a cognitive dissonance for these people. They, like, their mind is blown now after I said that, and they don't know what to do. They start to panic, and then they go into defensive mode. Well, actually, no, you're a liar. You're like an FBI, CIA agent. You're just trying to put propaganda on Russia. Yeah, sure. I wish I was, because if I was, I would not be living here. I would be living probably very well somewhere, uh, on a beach, surrounded by many beautiful women wearing bikinis. That's where I would be if I was truly an FBI or a CIA agent, okay? But yeah, that's not the case. I'm just I'm just giving you the facts, guys. That's all. All right, guys, thanks for watching today. I will do more of these in the future. Until next time, and JC signing off. Peace.